The Palworld Nintendo lawsuit has been a roller coaster of bad decisions that has led to one ultimate truth. Pokemon may be lucrative, it may be powerful, but it is not invincible or above the law. And now Nintendo's pushing back so hard, even the Japanese lawyers are kind of calling it quits. But before we begin, let's thank the sponsor of this video, Factor. While I love eating food, I do not like making it because I'm kind of lazy, but thankfully Factor hits both sweet spots for me by offering really simple, easy to prepare meals that are full of nutrition, which is really great for someone like me who does what I do. The meals range from beef and broccoli with sweet soy sauce, as I'm eating right here. The meat especially feels really tasty, and I've been eating this meal specifically every single day now, all week pretty much, which has been honestly great. There's also full chicken breast and potato meals, or even this diced beef with curry and vegetables as well. All of these are also tasty, and Factor is better for you and cheaper in the long run than spending loads of money on delivering apps instead. Factor delivers fresh, never frozen, chef-crafted, and dietitian-approved meals straight to your doorstep, ready to eat in just 2 minutes. It's designed to support your wellness journey, and this beef broccoli that I'm eating is loaded with protein. Factor also helps eliminate stress around cooking, planning, or cleaning up, so you can always stay focused on your goals instead of just worrying about what you have to eat next. And preparing is also so simple, even I can do it. You can either poke holes in the top and put it in your toaster oven, or toss that thing into the oven, forget about it for a few minutes, and there you go, your meal's ready to go. The microwave works too, just 2 or 3 minutes tops, and boom, it's ready to go. My beef and broccoli I'm eating, done in the microwave. Tastes great. It's just that easy. I can't even screw this up, which tells you that it's idiot-proof if someone like me can even do it, so it's great to have a perfectly healthy and tasty meal ready to go whenever you need it. You can enjoy 100 plus rotating weekly options from meals and salads to breakfast, shakes, and more, all crafted for great taste and nutrition in mind. Factor also now features double the seafood and double the protein options compared to last year's offerings, plus 20 new ready-to-eat salads and grain bowls inspired by Sakura. Also, if you're worried about certain ingredients, you can relax because Factor meals are designed with ingredient avoidance by default, so there's no pork, fish, shellfish, mushrooms, or spicy ingredients. So you can enjoy flavor-first dishes that fit your preferences based on your needs, and if you enjoy working out and keeping yourself strong, Factor has most of their meals deliver 30 grams plus of complete protein, up to 53 grams, even to support muscle repair and recovery. You can also enjoy new protein options like short ribs, salmon burgers, and bison sausage, part of the expanded high-protein lineup that they have for you as well. Another great thing is nothing Factor serves you will have any sort of garbage in it. No refined seed oils, refined sugars, artificial colors, or even sweeteners. It's all organic, incredibly healthy, and again, super easy to prepare. So head to Factor75.com or click the link below and use code ENDEMIONFB50 to get 50% off your first Factor box plus free breakfast for 1 year. Again, offers are only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchases. You can also scan the QR code on screen to get yourself my deal and get yourself all set up real nice and easy if you want to do it that way too. Again, head to Factor75.com or click the link below and use code ENDEMIONFB50 to get 50% off your first Factor box plus free breakfast for 1 year. If you want super easy, healthy alternative meals that aren't full of nasty byproducts and can be made ready in mere minutes, then you kind of just found your answer. It's so simple that even I can do it, and honestly, that's the best praise I can give Factor. It tastes great, it's easy to store, and the convenience is exactly what I need to do to my whole busy life that I tend to lead. Thanks again to Factor for sponsoring this video, and now let's get back to it. As PC Gamer shows here, Japan's patent officials are exhausted with Nintendo because Nintendo refuses to accept defeat amidst their patent defeats. Yeah, this is real, unfortunately. So the short version, in case you don't know, Nintendo tried to sue Palworld over a bunch of patents. It didn't work, and Nintendo is very, very salty now. Because the longer Palworld is allowed to exist and operate freely, the more mad Nintendo then becomes. So what ended up happening now was that Nintendo tried to push remixed versions of the patents they were already trying to use to squash Palworld, and it didn't work. So they tried to resubmit the same patents again with changes to them, which honestly I think that shouldn't be allowed, but that's copyright law for you. Anyways, it turns out when Nintendo did this again regarding their patents involving capturing monsters in balls and riding monsters as transport or summoning creatures to help you in a game, and they even tried claiming that they own touchscreen controls against Palworld Mobile of all things, none of this worked in Nintendo's favor. Everything got axed by the Japanese Patent Office. But Nintendo, being who they are, they have enough money to buy entire countries, so naturally, they kept trying anyways. Japanese patent attorney Kiyoshi Kurihara claimed what Nintendo was doing here are things that he and other patent attorneys rarely have seen in standard patent practice, which doesn't surprise me because Nintendo is trying to break the world down to burn away Palworld at this point. So Nintendo is yet again trying to push their patent, which is number 2026 6-019762, which, as seen here from the official patent website, as we can see on the right there under status, it says rejection decision under review. Good Lord, Nintendo. These guys are so hell-bent on erasing Palworld, they are resubmitting things with small changes to get any leg up on Palworld and Pocket Pair that they can. You know what this is like? You know when someone asks another person out and they're like, nah, I'm not interested. But then that person who gets rejected just keeps asking that person out, and it starts to get sadder the more they do it, and then it kind of becomes annoying. And eventually they're kind of just groveling like, please let me take you out. That's kind of Nintendo right now. It's kind of embarrassing to see, man. You guys are a multi-billion-dollar corporation. The crazy part is Nintendo has allegedly spent somewhere near $40 million in these legal fees just trying to get Palworld like erased. And FYI, that's more money spent on legal fees than Nintendo has spent on the development of Pokemon Legends ZA almost 4 times in comparison. So Nintendo could have taken that $40 million they just wasted and actually invested it into making a game that could outcompete Palworld and shake the heavens. But no, they would rather spend that money to legally ruin and annihilate Pocket Pair and Palworld because they don't want to have to work harder when it comes to Pokemon. Isn't that crazy? Palworld was made for $7 million, by the way. Nintendo could have easily made an amazing Pokemon game with 4 times Legend ZA's budget. Come on, man. It's just, I don't know, it's getting sad, dude. That patent, by the way, that Nintendo is resubmitting that is constantly being rejected. Dude, look at what it entails from the official patent page. Here, let me read it for you. It's reason to provide a game program, game system, game device, and game processing method that can cause a player character to perform various types of actions on a virtual space field. In the first mode, based on a second operation input, the aiming direction in the virtual space is determined, and based on a third operation input, an item that affects a field character placed on the field in the virtual space is released by the player character toward the aiming direction. Nintendo, come on, just the description there. Like, you don't own the patents. You can't own the concept of capturing something in a device. And by the way, if this is something Nintendo's trying to push, well, why aren't they also going after, let's say, Capcom with Monster Hunter? Doesn't Monster Hunter allow you to capture creatures with nets and pitfall traps and the like too? Why aren't you suing Capcom for that then? It's just hypocritical. It's not even sad anymore. It's just getting kind of annoying. This patent number 019762 is not going to go in Nintendo's favor. They already tried it because this stupid patent thinks that Nintendo owns the rights to like basically half, if not more, of gameplay concepts that so many other games use this day. It's frankly impossible to get this to pass the way that it is. Like, oh look, I'm Nintendo. I believe I own the right to riding a mount in a video game. Excuse me? What happens if you win then? Every game with mounts is cooked then? Sorry, Witcher fans, World of Warcraft, Red Dead Redemption 2. Nintendo wants to own the right to you hopping on some sort of animal to get where you want to be going. You can't own that, Nintendo. That would be like Need for Speed thinking that it owns the right to driving a car in a video game. No, stop that. You don't own that. It's impossible. Next thing we know, Nintendo's going to say they invented oxygen at this point. But as seen here, Nintendo has brought up again how their claims were being used against them with Pokemon Generations. That's a fan-made game which Palworld's lawyers used as proof that Nintendo's patents couldn't work because they already existed in another game. But Nintendo claims it doesn't work or should be allowed because the game in question is in Nintendo's eyes illegal, because the fan who made Pokemon Generations doesn't own the IP, obviously. But the argument here is it doesn't matter if the game is not officially released or not. The fact it existed prior to Nintendo filing these lawsuits, while having the exact same systems working as Nintendo claims to have invented, but how could they invent it if it already existed? That's the point. It's why this all becomes a conundrum that Nintendo can't avoid now. They're trying it again. You can't claim that you own something that already exists. It would be like me saying, no, I created the heavy metal genre of music. No, stop. Who cares if I wasn't born in the 80s? I still made heavy metal, and I'm going to sue you for now pointing that out, right? Like Nintendo pushing back against the fan-made game that disqualifies their patents from being taken in good faith. This is why Nintendo's lawyers then said this. It is extremely inappropriate for the examiner to deliberately misidentify the infringing product as if it were a genuine product. Okay, we know Nintendo. They don't own Pokemon in that fan game, but you're still missing the point. That doesn't matter. What does is the concepts that you claim that you invented clearly were not invented by you because those concepts existed in something you didn't make already. Get that through your heads. If you don't own the right to gameplay mechanics this broad, even as PC Gamer said here, that's not how anything works. And in Nintendo's case especially, these things cannot be used in good faith to then claim that you own the right to what you claim to own, because you don't. You can get mad about that all you want. It doesn't matter. You ultimately cannot own something you didn't create or invent. Otherwise, every media property in existence right now would be in an unending war of copyright copyright infringement laws all over the place. We would have Call of Duty and Battlefield unironically suing each other every other week if Nintendo got their way, because they would probably start complaining, Battlefield? No, we at Activision with Call of Duty, we own the right to shooting a weapon in the game. Like, everything would just unravel. PC Gamer then quotes one of the Japanese examiners in this case. Let me read it for you. Nintendo's assertion of copyright infringement, the JPO examiner notes, has no bearing on considerations of patentability because Japanese patent law contains no provision excluding inventions that infringe upon the copyright of others. Whether or not a cited work infringes on copyright, the examiner continues, is irrelevant to the inventive step judgment, and this view is considered standard among patent practitioners. Bum, Nintendo, you just got cooked by your own examiners here. You know what this means? It means whether a piece of art, like an old fan video game in Pokemon Generations case, which is the example being used here, breaks that copyright law because the person who made the game doesn't own Pokemon, which they don't, we all know that, it is still separate from whether it proves a new patent idea is obvious. So Nintendo thinks because an old unofficial Pokemon game exists, it counts as an unofficial example that can be used against them. But the examiners are like, no, that doesn't work that way. This has nothing to do with the patent rules. If a gameplay mechanic or design was already visible to the public, which it was by the way, it shows that that idea is not new or unique, even if the person who posted it broke the law by doing so. Just know, Nintendo's probably currently punching holes in the drywall about all of this, likely roundhouse kicking bamboo in their offices or even their interns yelling into the sky like, oh, this Palworld game, I just want it gone. I want that game in the dirt. How dare these sorts of people oppose us, Nintendo? But you're still in the wrong. If you got away with this, all hell would break loose and you know that. Thankfully, these laws exist, or everything would be in peril right now. PC Gamer said more. Further, the JPO said that it would be an absurd misunderstanding to think that its examiners misidentified the fan game as an authentic Pokemon product. And even if there were the possibility that the reasons for refusal could be subject to such an absurd misunderstanding, it would still have no bearing on the inventive step judgment. I just know Nintendo's mad right now, man. They are like so much in the wrong here, it's baffling, and they just refuse to stop. The fact that the examiners of this case are this baffled by Nintendo's misunderstanding of what should be easy to understand copyright law tells us that Nintendo is obviously misunderstanding the law on purpose in order to hopefully still get away with it. But that's not fair, nor is it legal, which is obvious here. Palworld is doing nothing wrong. However, the craziest part is how the examiners of this lawsuit address Nintendo about using official Pokemon terminology by what PC Gamer calls advanced pedantry. So I know not everyone's going to know what that means. So advanced pedantry means when someone uses an informal term for an extreme focused obsession with minor details. So Nintendo is going beyond the standard correctness of what's involved here, that they are deliberately ignoring the actual context of what's going on in this lawsuit. Okay, now that you know what that means, let's read what the examiner said. If it's impermissible to refer to the character name in the reasons for refusal, then accepting some redundancy in favor of precision, the elements should have been identified as follows: an object in the form of a small animal instead of Pokemon, an object in the form of a boy wearing a red hat instead of Ash, an object in the form of a small yellow animal instead of Pikachu, an object in the form of a small green animal instead of Bulbasaur, and a spherical object with a red upper half and a white lower half instead of Pokeball. The reasoning the examiner brings us up is very simple, that whether Nintendo were to try to act as if they had any legal claims here by using, let's say, Bulbasaur as an example, over instead saying green animal, it wouldn't make a difference either way. Nintendo cannot usher in something they don't have direct legal control over, even if they were to try to use stuff that they do own to self-insert it to make it seem like they do own it. Nintendo still has about 3 months or so to counterattack these claims, but if this is how flimsy they're getting at this point, I don't see it happening. They're not even losing their lawsuit now. Nintendo is just embarrassing themselves in a court of law because they want to remove Palworld so badly. It's evidently clear they're willing to pull any rabbit out of any hat that they can find now. And hey, look, I get why Nintendo's so hell-bent on pushing this lawsuit, because they really think they can win this, even if they do it in bad faith. But when you look at how Palworld is doing, yeah, it's got Nintendo shaking in their boots. As seen here from Yahoo and Forbes, Palworld hasn't even dipped in player counts for over 2 weeks since the release of 1.0. That's not good for Nintendo. It means the game has staying power. People are playing it for the long haul. Man, if only Nintendo had, $40 million to spare to invest into a rival Pokemon game to defeat Palworld, instead of spending it on, legal fees over years trying to sue their competition instead. Maybe they they can make something greater. I don't know, I'm just spitballing here. But as seen here, Palworld is comfortably hovering around the 700 to even mid 600,000 player count wise on Steam alone. The fact at 8 a.m. on a weekday, the game has over 500,000 people on Steam playing that game. Now that tells you everything. Either a lot of people don't have jobs or a lot of people are avoiding their job to play Palworld, which is that, yeah, they are obsessed with the game. They can't get enough of it. This game is like Pokemon on steroids for people. But hey, it's Nintendo's fault, isn't it? They didn't want to cater to PC players or PlayStation, Xbox. They wanted to keep Pokemon on their Nintendo consoles only. I get it, so what do you want? You can't really get mad that Palworld is doing what it's doing when you kept your only competition against it on your platform alone. I get why Nintendo does that, because they don't want to share even a nickel with their competition platform-wise of any of the money that's made, but if that's how you want to do it, well, then you're gonna have to get comfortable with the fact that someone has to come in, fill that gap that you were missing, and reap the benefits, which is exactly what's going on here. Palworld wouldn't never have existed if Pokemon was multi-platform, but there aren't, so guess what? They're making millions out of you because you don't want to do it. According to Alinea Analytics, take it with a grain of salt, but anyways, as seen here, Palworld has apparently sold over 30.5 million copies so far, made somewhere over $700 million, and has an average of 3.7 million daily active users across all platforms combined. When you factor in Game Pass, which Palworld is on, this number then reaches over 40 million players in totality. This means if we factor in the Game Pass numbers, it equates roughly to about 31% of 40 million, which is about 12.5 million users then on Xbox alone, which is astoundingly high. Most games that are live service would fight tooth and nail for a fraction of those numbers. I know Palworld is in live service, thankfully, by the way, but the point stands that Palworld is pulling Call of Duty numbers, but it costs a fraction, and it's basically Pokemon, but not exactly, so Nintendo's really mad about it either way. To put this into perspective for you, this means that Palworld has outsold Pokemon Sword and Shield, which has a lifetime sales number of somewhere near 27 million units. It also, from what I can tell, has somehow beaten Pokemon Violet and Scarlet too. Those games sold a combined 28 million units. Other games pale in comparison to Palworld as well. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, that's 15 million. Pokemon Diamond and Pearl remakes, that broke 12 million. Even games like Pokemon Legends Arceus, that's at 15 million. Legends ZA, that's 12.3 million. So yeah, Palworld has officially sold more copies than the last few Pokemon games. So no wonder why Nintendo's so mad. And I know people will say, well, of course it sold more, it costs less. But yeah, that's kind of the point of it, isn't it? That a AA game with a modest budget that caters to the same crowd as Pokemon outdid their competition that had unlimited money and resources is kind of a big deal, right? This is what I've been saying. Nintendo really has no excuse here. They have the money, they have the manpower and the talent. They just refuse to let their developers make games that are matching the quality or the talent of the people that are involved there. Look, it's not even like Game Freak is a bad developer or incapable of making cool games. I mean, if you didn't know, there's a game coming out called Beast of Reincarnation, which is coming out in August 2026. On all platforms, by the way. As you can see, this is the game on screen here. This is made by Game Freak, if you didn't know that. Yeah, the Pokemon people are making this like Souls-like action RPG adventure that's not fully open world, but open-ended at least, that looks light years ahead of what Pokemon is capable of producing, both graphically and gameplay-wise. So you're looking at this game and you're like, so how come Beast can look this good and play this fluently, but the mainline Pokemon games by the same developers look like they were made in some guy's apartment in like a weekend? Well, it's Nintendo. They don't want to spend the budget to push these games into that next level, so to speak, game development-wise. They want to keep the budget smaller so the games are made faster, so they just make tons of money. If I recall, Legend ZA only had to sell something like 150,000 copies to recoup its development costs, and as we know, it sold over 12 million units. So you do the math on that return on investment, right? But that's the point here. It's not really Game Freak that's holding Pokemon back, it's Nintendo. Beast of Reincarnation is the biggest self-report Nintendo could have made, or allowed to happen, I guess, but they did it. So that's what's happening now. Would I love a Pokemon game with the production values of Beast of Reincarnation? Oh, absolutely. But would Nintendo allow that to happen? I kind of doubt it, because the ROI is so high on Pokemon-related products, no matter what they do, they really have no reason financially, I guess, to improve. But with Palworld costing less than half of what Pokemon does now to buy it, I think Nintendo needs to stop making excuses for themselves. If you don't want Palworld, or God, imagine a Palworld 2 that is even more new and improved and all of that to blow the hinges off every door in the building. Nintendo has to stop being greedy, lazy, and complacent and start bringing their S-tier game to Pokemon games in development before long. Otherwise, the humiliations will continue, and the longer Palworld operates and grows, which it will, I think the further people are going to start questioning Nintendo even more. If Nintendo fans haven't already, I mean, whenever a Palworld 2 does get announced, I would imagine it's going to look amazing and play great. And it's probably so still going to be cheaper than any Pokemon game to buy. And Nintendo fans are going to look at Palworld, see all the unique additions, the huge world, the gameplay, and all of that and go, well, why isn't Nintendo matching this? And that's going to become the norm eventually. Address it, Nintendo. Fly, you fools, before it's too late for you. Because as Forbes said here, Palworld is quickly becoming the next No Man's Sky, which if you don't know what that means, it means Palworld is going Super Saiyan 2 and father-son Kamehamehaing the competition into orbit, pretty much is what that means. Although this doesn't mean that Palworld is bad per se at release like No Man's Sky was. All it means is that the game, like No Man, is expanding itself to such a degree that the version that you can play now versus before is light years ahead of where it is now. And that's awesome to see, right? Palworld not being live service, offering free updates, and being consumer friendly is like, well, everything Pokemon isn't. Nintendo would never give you an expansion for free for any of their Pokemon games when they could just sell it to you at a premium and still make millions. But that's kind of why Palworld is so beloved. It's like, what if Pokemon wasn't owned by greedy suits who see their player base as consumer pigs but as real people? Wow, what a concept. Kind of like Nintendo back in the day or something, but no wonder Nintendo wants that lawsuit to go through. Because these peasants, they want their games to be good. Oh, we don't want that. And how feature content they love? No, we can't be doing that stuff. Best we can do is try to erase their safe haven so they only have us as an option going forward by wasting $40 million on legal fees. My God. It's kind of nuts that Palworld doesn't have a microtransaction store or anything either. They could easily get away with it too. They could feature unique skins for pals, new outfits for you, all that and more. I mean, maybe they'll do it in the future. I don't know. But the fact all of this is what? Not even $40 Canadian? That's crazy. If you paid for what Palworld has on offer in, say, a Pokemon game, Nintendo would want both your kidneys, probably your left foot, and your grandmother's ashes as payment. And look, I get it. Palworld has had actual cultural impact, unlike previous Pokemon competitors. The reason why Nintendo didn't go after most of the other monster capturing games is because they were not powerful enough to really challenge the crown in any meaningful way. But the fact that Nintendo was willing to go and do what they've done to break down this AA game, that just tells me simply that while the AAA industry apparently believes it's saying, oh, we do want new amazing games to exist, I don't think they really actually mean that. I mean, okay, they want new games to exist, but they don't want those games to encroach on their well-trodden territory is the thing. If anything, the AAA guys want cool games to exist in indie just so that they can rip them off if they have to in the future for ideas. But now that Nintendo has missed that train, Palworld's punching those tickets, and fellas, Pokemon could have been on other platforms. They had the opportunity, but it didn't happen. Nope, just greed, man. Hey, if that's what you want to do, what can you do? Although personally, going after Palworld like you're doing, knowing that they cooked themselves by their own volition, that tells me that, yeah, Palworld is here to stay, and Nintendo, they couldn't be madder about it. It's the sort of competition that will finally shake up the subgenre. Now that the floodgates are open and real competition is here to stay, Pokemon needs to, ironically, evolve, considering how not willing Nintendo has been for the past, I don't even know how long, decade and then some when it comes to things like this. Sure, Nintendo's biggest strength is their history, but history can become a weakness if a company becomes too dependent on it. And yeah, Nintendo has crazy intellectual property rights, and mostly they do good by it, Fire Emblem, Mario, Zelda, whatever, but it's also led to their own weaknesses because that temptation has clearly led to Nintendo in some ways to not really take risks but just rely on what already works, right? Why reinvent the formula if Pokemon sells? Why create something new like a new IP when Zelda or Mario has decades of brand recognition and people will show up regardless? The answer is competition. It forces innovation, and Palworld is the perfect reminder that this industry, despite having decades of said brand recognition, they are not immune to that disruption either. So, in the end, the future of games and franchises will be determined by competition. Nintendo has to respond to this, but not through bogus legal lawsuit claims, but actual gameplay innovation, right? We need to see Nintendo is willing to risk it all to create some amazing banger Pokemon games in the future, which means if they do that, which hopefully they do, we're all going to win. I would love to play both Pokemon and Palworld, and I hope that's what happens. This won't destroy the market. If anything, it's going to help heal it. It should force these companies to have to earn their position and keep like before, because neither Nintendo nor Pocket Pair is going to be going anywhere, but at least Palworld changed the conversation in a way that actually matters. Nintendo may not be afraid of Palworld itself, but it should absolutely be paying attention to what Palworld represents. Because for the first time in a long time, this whole monster collecting genre has a serious conversation about competition finally. And that's a conversation that could ultimately make gaming better for everybody. But what do you think? Let me know. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you'd like to. And hey, we all win in the end here, all right? Again, head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code ENDEMIONFB50 to get 50% off your first Factor box. box plus free breakfast for 1 year. Thanks again to Factor for sponsoring this video, and now let's get back to it. If it means I might one day get my own multi-regional Pokemon game that is S tier, then thank you, Pocket Pair, very much for doing what you're doing, and please keep it up. The only way forward now is up, and all I gotta say to that is, hell yeah, dude.